What's up, Lego builders? Welcome back to Coconut Brick Studios. Today I'm challenging myself to build the best My Little Pony wait, what? Oh shoot, personal project. Today I'm challenging myself to build 3 Lego Mocs based off of randomly selected Star Wars vehicles. And to take it a step further, I can only use a color of part once. So if I build a dark tan Moc, that means dark tan is no longer an option for the other 3 builds. Now that the parameters have been laid out, let's see what vehicles I'm going to be working with. I have here one of my hats, and it's got 8 little slips of paper with 8 Star Wars vehicles from my collection. And just so you know, these aren't just prequel or Republic vehicles, but no sequel vehicles. I gotta draw the line somewhere. Alright, let's see what the first one's gonna be. I made sure to make them all the same size, so no matter which one I pick, I shouldn't have any idea what it is. Alright, let's see. The first one is Luke's Landspeeder. Nah, I'm just kidding. The AAT, not the most exciting option, but it's a good start. Alright, number 2. I'm gonna go a lot quicker with these because I don't want to draw this out, obviously, when I get building. Alright, the second one is the good old ATTE. That's gonna be a classic, but a tough one because that's pretty big, so I'm gonna have to build a decent sized Moc to be able to fit that one. Alright, we got our first non-Clone Wars vehicle, the ATDT. I was actually hoping I'd get this one. I had a cool idea planned for that one. Well, the next step is to now spend 8 hours trying to think of 3 Lego Mocs that aren't Ryloth and Naboo. But if you're stoked to see how I'm gonna bring these vehicles to life, don't forget to execute Order 66 on that like button. Once that's done, it's time to get building. I think I'm gonna go with the Separatist AAT Moc first, and while I was thinking about what to do, a droid checkpoint came to mind. Kind of like what we see during the Onderon arc in the Clone Wars TV show, where the droids have taken over the city and have set up a checkpoint at the gates to make sure troublemakers and contraband aren't snuck into the city, because no one wants a troublemaker in their freshly occupied territories. I'm making a freeform foundation because I need to practice, and I think it looks better than a black frame in some cases, especially with outdoor terrain Mocs. I think the reason I struggle with freeform is because I'm a very by-the-books rule-following kind of fellow, and I feel like freeform building is the opposite of that. There's no specific formula to follow, and you just put pieces all over the place seemingly at random, so my very rigid, instruction-loving self struggles with that.
Where is it? You never give it to an ordinary citizen!
But after slogging through the freeform edges, I emerged victorious and began to plate off the top of the Moc, which is much easier because the shape has already been created. Now I just need to match it with wedge plates and other goodies. Onderon seems like a desertish tan place. One could almost say it's dark tan. And that's right, I'm blessing your lives once again with a dark tan Moc. I feel like it's tradition at this point to include a dark tan build in every Moc challenge I do. But don't worry, we're gonna get a fun little urban vibe going in a bit, and I'm not talking about this. I'm actually going to take a page from my Coruscant Moc and build part of a building on one side with a rounded wall on the front of it, mostly because I have a bunch of the right parts left over from the Senate building. So I took a peek into some Onderon construction and architecture, and I found this building, which is just what I was looking for. Fairly simple and in the right color, but has some cool features to it and gives off a good industrial urban vibe with the big pipes or columns in front. I don't know how high I want this because in true coconut fashion, I won't be adding any roofs. I'll just be building it until it looks good. And of course, there aren't any blue sidewalks, so I need to cover up the filler plate with some tile to create a very small, inconvenient sidewalk, which leads directly into the pipes. In between that, I will add a dirt road because I guess all the taxpayer dollars went to this dope throne instead of some paved roads. But that's a win for me because I can use even more dark tan. Now it's time to get into cart mode. We need some kind of destitute peasant riding a primitive hover wagon. Wow, that's something you don't hear every day. That's one thing I really enjoy about the Star Wars universe, the way technology is used and integrated among the lower classes. You're a farmer, but you've got technology more advanced than anybody here on Earth. And of course, you get to drink blue milk. Last thing to do is add all the random small builds to tie everything together, and of course, at least one crate, because you can't have a Star Wars Moc without crates. I'm pretty happy with how this one turned out. It's simple, yet captures the vibe of droid control. I added a couple barricades in the middle of the road to further discourage anyone trying to speed through the checkpoint. The building is nothing special, but for a Moc challenge, this is about as much detail as I need. Driving the wagon, we have an alternate reality Ki-Adi-Mundi where he became a farmer, but does he still wonder about the droid attack on the Wookiees? This Moc was a huge win for me because my favorite thing was the freeform base. It turned out really good, and I feel like I'm starting to get the hang of freeform better and figure out some kind of a formula or guideline of sorts to help me understand the building process better. Next, I get to build with my all-time favorite vehicle in Star Wars, the ATTE. I have multiple versions of this beautiful machine from UCS scale to 501st, so I have lots of options to choose from, but I decided to go with one of my favorite versions, which happens to be partially designed by me. Because of my current shortage on parts, I'm gonna have to get real creative this time, or very uncreative in some people's opinions, because I'm doing yet another Naboo mock.
But deliver us.
People say I do a lot of Naboo mocks, and they're not wrong. It's my favorite planet in Star Wars, and I can only build with the parts available, and at this time, green was one of them. The ATTE is a big vehicle, so it'll take up pretty much all the space on the mock, so it's going to be a grassy field with a real simple freeform frame. This is my kind of freeform, just wedge plates stacked on top of each other. There will be a little variation to this green serving tray of a build. In one corner, I'm going to add a little foxhole of sorts, so I'm going to try and build a reddish brown hole without cracking any of the parts, which went smoothly until I was trying to take the mock apart.
Please, no! No! No!
The ATTE I decided to use was none other than my custom Rhino Company one, which I try to use any chance I get because who doesn't want to see a giant horned walker charging into battle? This won't be one of those classic battle charging mocks though. Basically the opposite. I'm going to have the ATTE in the process of being camouflaged by foliage. I was watching a World War II documentary around the time I built this and was inspired by the camo nets and other things used to hide planes and ground positions from enemy aircraft. So I'm building my own cover for the ATTE with large foliage pieces. That way, when vulture droids detect a giant tree with horns poking out of it, they won't be suspicious. In that same vein, I'm adding a camo net above the foxhole with some poles, a net, and some more foliage pieces, turning it into a covered mortar emplacement. The net was a nightmare to string on the poles, but when I finally wrangled into place, the whole thing looked pretty cool. Here we have Rhino Company in the process of camouflaging their walker while they set up a mortar emplacement to hit a nearby enemy position. The walker will provide ground support for the mortar and will be hidden from enemy aircraft trying to find and bomb them from above. For how simple this mock is, I really like how it turned out. I was able to tell a different kind of story and build in a way I've never done before, which is one of the goals for these challenges because I don't want these builds to get too stale or repetitive. Let me know in the comments what you would use this foliage technique for. I definitely like this technique and you know I'm going to use it again. Maybe in another World War II Star Wars mashup video I have coming. Plus I always love getting to add real world elements and tactics into my Star Wars mocks. This last mock is going to be a real treat for you Imperial fans since the last vehicle I'm building with is the ATDT. For some reason I had the clearest idea of what I wanted to do this build out of all of them. It struck me like a lightning bolt right as I started thinking about an ATDT mock.
It's kind of nice up here, though.
This is going to be a very detailed and display level build, so I want it to have a nice black frame to match the vibe. Half of it's going to be green swamp with a swamp bank on one side. I'm once again taking the risk of building with reddish brown, and I paid dearly for it. I wanted the water to be green because this is a really old stagnant swamp, akin to what we see Luke crash his X-Wing into on Dagobah. Now in goes the ATDT. It got stuck in the swamp and was abandoned by the crewmen either on purpose or because they were under attack and didn't have time to free it. I removed one of the feet and added some extra parts to make it look like one foot and part of the leg was submerged in the water while the other one broke off at the hinges while the walker was trying to be freed. Now in go the plants to cover up the ground and parts of the walker because I want it to look like all this happened a long time ago. I also covered up the walker with plants and vines to make it look run down and overgrown. I love doing old ruins type builds like this because there's no pressure or need for it to look perfect. On the contrary, the more ruined and dilapidated or broken it looks, the better the build turns out. Not only did I have the most fun building this one, but it's definitely my favorite of the three mocks. The smaller size allowed me to focus more on detail and story instead of filling up space with builds. It's a real simple story. A small Imperial patrol comes across an abandoned ATDT partially submerged in a swamp with little to no signs of what happened. I like stories like this that have a sense of mystery to them because it allows you and I to come up with our own idea of what happened and expand on what we see. The overgrown walker is definitely my favorite part, with the vine growing out of the barrel and other plants and dirt swallowing this thing into the jungle as it slowly sinks into the swamp. It's been a while since I did a build challenge, and I really enjoyed the format of this one. It was fun not knowing what vehicles I was going to have to build a mock around. Let me know if you'd like to see something similar where I have to draw out maybe like random terrain types or minifigs that I have to build a mock with. Of the three, I'm definitely keeping the ATDT mock as it will make a fine addition to my shelf mocks. I'm pretty sure it's the first and only Imperial build I have on display, so you know it's got to be good. That wraps up this video. Don't forget to let me know which of these builds was your favorite down below in the comments, and I will catch you in the next video, but until then, happy building.